We can.
And can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. I would like to thank God for this opportunity given me by the Online Church of Uganda to speak to the meeting this evening. Here it's the afternoon, and I want to thank God that I'm able to make a talk about retirement. Let's have a word of prayer. Thank you, Lord, for this opportunity that I'm going to speak to the Women Connect Online Church of Uganda. And I pray that you'll use my experience and the message that I have prepared to help those who are preparing for retirement. In Jesus' name, I have prayed. Amen. I am here with my granddaughter, so you'll keep listening. If she keeps saying words, please bear with me. This topic on retirement is a very interesting and challenging topic, and I looked at it. So here I am. It's a very sunny day today, so I beg that you allow me to put off my video. So retirement is a time, I looked at the definition, it's a period in someone's life after they have stopped working or they have reached a particular age and they are no longer in active service. It's also a time when you no longer need to work to live comfortably, and you can rely on your own savings or passive forms of income to fund your lifestyle. Another definition is that retirement is concurrently used with interchangeably used with a financial independence, and often both are achieved when you have enough combined savings, investment, or income, or pension. So those are the definitions of what retirement is. I also looked at what some religious leaders view as retirement, and Pope Francis defines retirement as a time to engage in new forms of service, using one's experience and wisdom to mentor others and to contribute to society. He also focused that it's a time to grow spiritually and to pray more, to prepare for the final stages of life with a strong faith. And then the late Billy Graham, who is an evangelical Christian, said he reviewed retirement as a new chapter of life rather than an end. And he believed that God still has a purpose for everyone, regardless of age. Billy Graham encouraged retirees to stay active in ministry, sharing their faith and engaging in prayer. And he also often spoke about retirement as a period to prepare for eternity, using the extra time to deepen one's relationship with God and to focus on the things of eternal significance. I also looked at what Rick Warren said. Rick Warren is a pastor and an author of Purpose-Driven Life. And he teaches that retirement should be purpose-driven, and that he encourages people to see retirement as a time to focus on the purposes that God has for their lives, such as ministry, family, or other forms of service. And Warren suggests that retirement is not a time to coast or a time to relax, but a time to continue growing in faith and to engage in meaningful activities that resonate with your passion and with your values. So with those background in definition, I would like to go into the perspectives of stages of retirement. Uh, Retirement is often divided in three phases: the early, the middle, and later years. And each phase comes with its own set of challenges, opportunities, and considerations. So the early years of retirement is normally considered as a transition and adjustment phase. The early phase is marked by the transition from work to retirement. It often involves adjusting to a new routine, finding new ways to spend time, and refining one's identity without a full-time job. When I joined the public service, the Uganda Public Service, on 1st of November 1981, my appointment letter read that I was going to serve, that the terms and conditions were permanent and pensionable. And yeah, so I looked at that and, that was something to look forward to. But as the years went by, things became so bad. And sometime in 1992, 93, there was that voluntary retirement scheme. They gave us an offer to individuals who want to volunteer to retire, and they gave us an attractive severance package and a golden handshake. I took that opportunity and I took a voluntary early retirement. So I'm talking about early retirement from an experience. I had only worked for 17 years in the civil service, in public service, and I took that option and went to work with the NGOs because the money I was earning in civil service could not even help me to take care of my family. And by then, my husband had got an accident. He was now bedridden. Hospital bills were very high. I couldn't afford rent. I couldn't afford school fees. So I took early retirement. I'm speaking that from experience. So when you take an early retirement, you are in a good health. You can allow, uh, at that age, actually, you can still pursue other hobbies. And as I told you, I joined now to work with the NGO world. And you can travel, you can do volunteer work, you can do part-time employment. And this is a time to enjoy the freedom and flexibility that retirement offers. It's also a stage where you have to plan your finances and manage them. Ensure that you have savings, you have investments, and you have sufficient funds to last you through the retirement years. Planning for long-term healthcare needs is also essential at this stage because you are still active, you can make money, and you can even do 2, 3 jobs. You can do consultancy, well, depending on what your background is and what your passion is. So at this stage, you can do a lot of financial planning and management. It's also a stage where you have a sense of, you've just lost that, you've just been detached from where you have been working, you are retired. It involves some emotional adjustment as well, a sense of loss of identity or leaving the workforce, going to an unknown, from that position of permanent and pensionable to the unknown where you are going into contract employment. Sometimes they give you 3 years. And then when the NGO, the organization doesn't have money, your contract is ended. So in this stage, you're also building a new social connection and in finding purposeful activities that can help mitigate these feelings. And some of the things I did in my early stages of retirement, I went into farming, I did crop, animals. I did a number of things, enterprises to make money. Some were very disappointing, some were successful. And one of the things that I did at that time was also to use the money, the, the, the money I was paid, that severance allowance, that package I was paid, I used to put up a house. And up to now, that is the house actually, which is on rent and which is taking care of my health and all my interests, the travel and what is actually from the rent from that property I put from the voluntary retirement scheme. So there's a phase two, which is the middle years of retirement. And in that age, that phase, you're settling into new lifestyle and routines. The retiree may have established a stable pattern of activities, relationships, and financial management. At this phase also, your health may start to decline, and you require more attention to medical care, to exercise and diet. You may also need to make more lifestyle adjustments to accommodate these changes which are happening in your health, in your body. In the middle years of retirement, you also need to reevaluate your goals and priorities, focus more on meaningful experiences, on family, on personal growth, and revisit your financial plans to ensure that there's continued stability. And at this phase, you also start thinking of what your legacy is going to be. You start thinking of planning your estate, what are you going to give to the charitable giving, passing on wisdom or family traditions to younger generations. By the time you have retired, you already have offsprings, and a good number of parents, especially in Uganda, we put so much investment saying we're saving for our children, we're doing this, but how do you know the children are going to take up the activities you are investing in? For example, if you go into farming, how sure are you that they are going to follow you in that tree planting? At some stage in the late 90s, I actually went into tree planting. I planted, but every year during the dry season, these hunters who go hunting for wildlife and they set a bush fire and somehow the forest gets burnt. Twice the trees I planted on 1 hectare were burnt. And I told my children, I cannot continue with this. And they told me, Mama, do you think we are going to follow your business of going into the forest? We are going to do different things. We are not going to do investment in tree planting. So I abandoned the tree planting because I knew none of my children would follow me or take that as a way of financial investment. So there are things we do, and you think you are saving for your children. We work so hard, and yet you forget to take care about yourself. At this stage, that's when you really need to think about yourself, because you've worked so hard, you've been thinking of your children, other people, relatives supporting, and you abandon yourself. And it takes a toll on your health. So at this stage, you also need to take care of yourself and look after yourself. Otherwise, you can collapse under the challenges of raising up family, taking up responsibility, looking after relatives. I'm not saying that it's bad to look after relatives, but you also have to focus on yourself, because if you don't invest in yourself, in your health, you go down. Then there's the later years of retirement. In those later years, that's now maybe at the age of above 70 or more. It often brings physical and sometimes cognitive decline. So there's increased dependency. It's now a stage where you are leading to greater dependency on family, on friends, or professional caregivers. And it's very important to plan for such long-term care. It's very crucial, because at this stage you cannot avoid illnesses. The body breaks down, and as someone says, it's in Ecclesiastes, there's a time to be born and a time to die. So when you reach your sunset years, you go down, you start declining down, and the time is different for each one. Some people go down at the age of 50, others go down 60, others live up to 100 plus. But when the physical decline starts, there's no way you can run away from it. So you have to prepare for it mentally and financially, because it's an expensive phase. Medical bills, diet, exercise, many things that come in this age. It's also a stage where you have to downsize your household, the farm, the home. For example, it's a stage where you have reduced activities and you are focusing on comfort and ease. There may be a shift towards more passive activities and increased time spent at home. So this is the stage where you actually, even the body energy levels have gone down. The house is almost an empty nest. Maybe there are just two of you or three in the home, and there's not so much activity. A lot of the time you are seated, you are maybe bedridden, you are just moving in the home, not so much activity. This is the stage where you often involve in deep reflection on your life. You are looking at your spirituality, you are preparing for end of life. It can be a time of great personal insight and fulfillment if you accept it, and it can be peaceful. But if your life has not been good, if you have not been planning things well, this is a time when you suffer most. You feel you are abandoned, maybe you are rejected at a stage where your children have gone out of their home, they are now independent, some are working, they don't even care about you. Yesterday, I met a friend of mine. We had a function of the Ugandans from West Nile who are living in the Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia states here in Silver Springs. And I met a friend. We used to work together 20 years ago. So he moved also to the US and we met for the first time yesterday. I asked him, how are your children? How are you? Then he told me, yeah, I've gone through a lot of health challenges, and he showed me in his chest he had undergone heart surgery. They had opened his neck region, another wound on the right hand side because they inserted a pacemaker. And I asked him, so what about your children? Where are they? He said one son is in California, two are in the same city in Milwaukee where I live, but we don't see each other. They don't come to visit me. And straight away I noticed, this guy is now in later years of retirement. His children are in the same city with him, but they are busy living their own lives. They don't come to see him. So he told me, I said, so what do you do? He says, we are planning to go to Uganda end of December. That's the time when we can be together as family. But when they're here, everyone is living their own lives. Another example also I can share at this stage, when children know you have accumulated money, maybe you have put your savings in the bank, you have put it where, they'll stress you out. They'll stress you out, and when you die, they know you are going to leave the property, their estates, your estates to them. So sometimes those are the things which can also bother you. And when you know that at this age, the family moving on, they don't care much about you. They don't pay much attention. They say, Muzee, oh, this old woman, even the reference to you changes. So those are things which can stress you out and you may not even enjoy your retirement age. So the way you treat your children, the way you treat your family, the way you treat your relatives is how they will treat you in your old age. Because at a certain stage, you actually become like a child dependent on them. So it's very important that you plan your life properly and look at how you're going to end your life. And many times you don't want even to prepare for like how we exit, how we end your life. We leave the responsibility to other people to take care of. But if you are careful enough and you plan out how you live your life, it's also at this stage that you can put a will, you put things so that your estates are managed in a proper way. Otherwise, many people die of frustration, of depression, and in the end, their estates are in array because there was no proper end of life planning. And maybe they did not even communicate with their loved ones about their final wishes. So at this stage, this is time to think about it. I know sometimes we said, no, we cannot do this, but it's high time we start thinking and planning some of these things. It makes you be at peace. I had a cousin who passed on. It's now 1 month, and I was talking with his daughter this morning. I said, "Oh, have you finished the paperwork?" And because she said, "No, I don't. I didn't need to stress. Daddy left everything. Daddy put everything. When we knew he was in stage 4 cancer, he started putting things in place. So he died when he had transferred his estates. He had put his children, all the property, everything. So this challenge of going into letter of administration and what was all sorted before he died. So the children are going to live happy because they don't have to stress about what their dad left. Everything was put in order and they can access his bank accounts, they can do. So that was one example of someone who thought out his end of life and planned it so well. And this is a Christian, he was very committed to God. So he put things in order and there was no chaos. Even at the time he was buried, everything has been peaceful. So in retirement, you have to do financial preparation. It's important to start saving early and saving regularly. You know, when you need to understand the retirement accounts, and some people depend on their pension plans, others will have savings accounts, others have investment options. They are short term, you can go into farming, you can do money markets. Some people put their money in unit trusts for long-term investments like in treasury bonds. Others put their money in land and real estate. And all these things, yeah, depending on which financial investment you have applied, you should also know that some of these investments attract taxes, so you have to pay taxes. Um, we have a group of our old girls from S1 to S6, and we call ourselves the inner circle. We've also been, we've reached at a stage where people retire at different ages, but now most of us are in retirement. For me, I started early, I'm used to it. But those who have just recently retired, we had a meeting yesterday and one of them was saying, "Oh, I feel so isolated. I, I've been working so hard, 8 to 5, and sometimes even after 5. Now I'm completely redundant. I have to find something to do." And another one said, I have been budgeting for this retirement. I've been preparing, but now I'm looking and seeing that my income, which I have saved, may not be sufficient because things change. The cost of living is increasing, and eventually, even now our needs, like I don't like this house I'm living in. I want to move into a better house. You have to plan. Maybe you now need to. There are people who build storied houses. You don't need it because you may not be able to climb the stairs unless maybe you put an elevator in your house. So even that things you planned when you were younger, now the priorities change. You may now need to go into a bathroom where you have these, where you can hold, you have these bars to hold on to. You may, to avoid falling in the bathtub or in the bathroom, you may need help to move in the house. There are people who already have mobility challenges. So maybe you are in a wheelchair or you need a walking commode in the house or you're in crutches. So all those things, they are going to affect your budget for retirement. And there are issues of emergency, which will even happen in retirement. So you need to plan for all these things. Another area of planning or thinking and putting your money is in the health and wellness. I've mentioned it before. At this age of retirement, the health eventually goes down. But don't just sit there. You don't have to sit there and wait for, for your time to come. It's good to be active, to maintain some physical and mental health during retirement. You have to do regular medical checkups. and healthcare planning. If you have health insurance, that's also the time when it will be spent and used optimally. And you also have to plan for these long-term care options. Some people need nursing care, you need professional caregivers, you need, and relatives will be there. But with time, they get tired. They also have to go and live their lives. They have to go and look for money. And some of these illnesses, they can really keep you down for a long, long time. So you really need to prepare for those. And it's advisable also during the retirement to have regular medical checkups. Many people just sit at home and said, well, if you don't feel pain, you don't have anything. But the truth is some sickness may be there in your body. And if you don't do routine checkup, they'll find out, oh, you have reached stage 2, stage 3 cancer. You have high blood pressure. You have this, there are those non-communicable diseases. They are there in the body. By the time you realize it has eaten far in your body. So these are some of the things you have to do. You have to stay active. You do exercise, have hobbies and social engagements. Don't isolate yourself. At this age, it is good to follow your passion and to find the people with common interest and you move on. Otherwise, if you just go home, there are people who have actually retired and within 1 year, they have passed on. It's more common with men than women because you're already isolated, you find yourself in a depression, you have no friends. And people can be friends when you're in a job because they want to benefit from you. But the time you are out of job, you don't have a serious, you don't have an office to go to, or you don't have a position where people can look to you. They forget about you. The people even who used to associate with you, they'll go away. They don't come visit you. You'll be there in your home morning to sunset. No one visits you. That can put you into a depression. So it's important that you stay active, you do exercise, have social engagements to take care of your health and your wellness. During retirement, you also need the emotional and social well-being because you are coping with emotional transition from being a busy person at work to having no job, or you're sitting at home. You've actually lost identity and you have to find a new purpose in your life. If you've been in an office where maybe you are driven, then all of a sudden the government car or the project vehicles are withdrawn, you have no driver. Maybe you don't have a car, you are transitioning from being driven to having no car. Some people at this stage, even because they have to fill in the gap, you spend your money for pension, maybe you buy a car. So that I read a story of a Ugandan who retired, but he didn't want the wife to know, and he had not adjusted mentally. So he bought a car, and every day he will leave at 8 o'clock and come back after 6. For 1 year, the wife didn't know that her husband was not employed. Well, I also don't know how that is possible, but it happened. And eventually they realized that the man actually had lost his job a year ago. So sometimes people have that emotional stress to cope with losing a identity because they no longer have a position, they don't have a job. And it's very hard when you have reached that retirement age to find jobs, unless you are going into consultancy or you have a very defined professional experience and knowledge which other people can take on. But even getting those consultancies may be challenging. So even in the family and among the friends and the community, you need to find your base and your footing so that your retirement can be fulfilling. If you are the type who have not been identified with people identifying with family, they'll laugh at you and say, you thought you were a big man, a big woman, now you're back with us. Sometimes people can make fun and tease the retirees. and it puts you in a very awkward situation emotionally and socially. At this stage, it's advisable that you also explore new activities. You can do volunteering and lifelong learning opportunities. Also, in this stage of retirement, the cost of life is increasing. So what you have saved may be fixed. What your pension is can be fixed, but the cost of life is increasing and you may not even be able to cope up. So you have to cut down your lifestyle. You have to cut down how you can live and spend your life. Some people go into other areas like go into heavy alcohol. People you find in Kampala, I stay in Bugolobi flats. And sometimes you find many of those retirees, they're spending time in the Middle East there in those pubs. They drink the whole day. Well, I don't know if that's the best way to spend your retirement, but it's good to have faith and spirituality in your retirement. The role of faith in navigating retirement challenges is very important. You can attend maybe Bible study groups, you can have fellowships, have ways of spiritual growth and getting involved in the community so that your retirement can be enriched. And those are years where you will also enjoy and not regret. There are a number of associations that can be joined according to your interest: the Fathers Union, Mothers Union, Christian Women Fellowship, the old boys, old girls associations, the Rotary Club. There are a number of institutions or organizations you can join that can keep you active and make you relevant. But spiritually, and as for Christians, as I mentioned in my definition before, retirement is a time for growth, for spiritual growth, and establishing more connection with rooted in the faith so that you can get connected spiritually and grow so that the years on earth are not in vain. I have come to the end of my presentation, but as I said, I want to emphasize it again. In retirement, you have to start planning early. Some people say that once you get an offer or once you start a job, start planning for your retirement on the day you start working at a job. And know that there are health considerations which will come along the way. Plan for that. Make sure you have engagements socially. You are not an isolated person. You are not living in your own house and dejected. Be involved and you will be socially active. Be grounded spiritually. It's a time when you can grow and get to know your God, study the Bible, use your talents to minister. For example, I am here, but I normally spend my time encouraging other people. And once in a while, I'm invited to speak on various forums. As a Rotarian, I also do a lot of projects. I write global grants, implement projects in areas of my interest: water, sanitation, hygiene, economic empowerment of women. So I never get idle. I also spend a lot of my time with my grandchildren. Here I'm babysitting with my granddaughter. She's 1 year, 3 months old. I enjoy doing it. When I go back to Uganda, I planted some trees in Buikwe. That was during the COVID lockdown. So sometimes I do that. Tree farming is good. I planted and it grows there. When it's time for harvest, I'll go and harvest. Sometimes you go into activities that will even drain you. I know a good number of people go into farming, but farming has its hazards. So choose wisely where you invest. because if you lose all your savings or all your retirement, and you can crash when things fail. You can get stroke because you are disappointed. You can get a heart attack. You can get other complications because you are worried about your money, or you have no lack of money. So it's always important to be spiritually grounded and start preparing early retirement. And I would like to conclude that retirement is not an end, but a beautiful beginning. It's a new chapter where your experiences and wisdom, which you have gathered over the years, can be shared in a meaningful way. It's a time to pursue your passions, to deepen relationships, and embrace the freedom to live with a purpose, faith, and joy. So as you step into this new season of retirement, or as you are planning to get into retirement, remember that the best time is yet to come. I spend a lot of my time now traveling. I can visit. I don't have to worry. There's no one in the house in Bugolobi. I just pack and go. So make sure your retirement is enjoyable. It's a time also you focus on God and be rooted in the faith. And it's a time when you can make amends. You have time if you ever did hurt people, no, say, I'm sorry, I did this, forgive me. No, it's a time to reconcile with friends, with family, with everyone, and yeah, make sure that your last days on earth are lived peacefully and happily and joyfully. God made us to enjoy our lives. So if you have done your part, you've raised children, enjoy your retirement. That is the message I have for you. And I've experienced this from my own perspective. It is different for everyone. And we can never have the same path to retirement. It's always different for different people. So this was my context, and that is how I've viewed retirement. Thank you so much for listening. May God bless you.
Thank you very much, Canon, Royce, and Androa. We bless the Lord for using you in such a way. You have actually exhausted the topic. We really, really bless the Lord who has granted you such understanding into this deep topic called retirement. So planning is key. May the Lord help us to plan so that we do not have to end up having to be isolated or failing to socially engage with people around us, and also have hobbies that we can actually engage in during this time of retirement. I called in the chat for questions and I do not seem to see any, but people keep on saying thank you, thank you, thank you. And it is good that you talked about planning early retirement, and exactly what you brought to our knowledge is that you actually ended up taking on early retirement, and this is something very good that we needed to get to know about. And something that I have been thinking about during your presentation was there are a number of us who keep postponing the time and saying, you know what, it is too early, it is too early to make a retirement plan, it is too early, it is too early. But from your experience and your clarity, you say that, you know what, it is different for each person, and that one was made clear to each of us. However, I still would insist that you advise for many of us here who are thinking, you know what is the best time for us to sit down and have these retirement plans worked on. Yours came in because a situation had hit at that time. However, what is the best time, apart from saying that, you know what, okay, yes, we have taken it literally, that we need to start planning immediately. We need to start, when immediately we start working, we're supposed to start planning for our retirement. However, my question is, what would you advise for many of us who are stubborn-headed?
Well, I really, as I said, the situation varies from person to person. If you are well established and you have enough savings, because retirement is, if you go back to the retirement is about having enough savings to take care of your last years. eh? It's reduced activity. So if you have had enough money in your life, you've worked enough and you think you have saved enough money for your old age, you can retire. And that will come at different times for different people. So I'm not going to give you a standard rate that let's do that the recommended age for retirement is 60 or earlier. Because for me, for example, I had to raise 6 children, and I told you that I was working at the Ministry of Agriculture, and at that time, my salary, net salary, was 42,000 Uganda shillings. I had 6 children to raise. It was not possible. I could not pay the rent. I could not, and I was commuting from Bugolobi to Entebbe. Life was hell. I could not even afford to buy things in Bugolobi market. We had to go to buy from Nakawa market. And those days there were no taxis. I had to think hard, am I going to live like this? Where will my children, how will they, what is the future for my children? So when the opportunity came for voluntary retirement, I took it. I had only worked for 17 years, but I took it. I joined an NGO and I went to work as a field officer. There, as a field officer, they were paying me 600,000 shillings. Yet in the ministry, I was at that top position being driven, but I had not enough money. So I took that decision because of the circumstances I was in. And through when I went back as a field officer, I was even now riding a motorcycle. But eventually, because I did my work well and God's favor was on me, I climbed through the ladders of that organization from a field officer riding a motorcycle to the program coordinator for the whole region. Then my salary went to 2.5 million. And in those years, 1996, 97, 98, that was a lot of money. I put that money, invested it into a house, which up to now I'm renting. So, but if I had stayed, I have classmates or age mates who stayed into civil service and they have just retired. So there's no standard format. Those who stayed, they have, of course, they are going to earn the pension until they die. But I don't have a pension. But the investment I put is going to help me, and it has helped me in my treatment, in my travels. The money I earn from the rent, it is what is helping me. So there's no standard format. There are people, I had 6 children. There are people who do not have children. Or as I've seen that you should have a child for old age. I'm telling you, at old age, you have a child, it will still need you at least 20 years to support a child until they are on their feet. And at an older age, it is so difficult to raise children because you don't have the energy. Raising children needs energy. You need to support them emotionally. You need to be there to discipline them. If not, your own child will be the one to kill you because they want to take over your property. Here in the US, many children, they take their parents to the old people's home because they want to access their parents' savings. And here in the US, many people actually have a lot of money. The pensioners, they have a lot of money. their children will take them and even instruct that if my parent gets into a critical situation, don't put them on oxygen, don't put life support so that they die, you know? Your own child can kill you. And we're reaching a stage where children now value wealth, they value property more than your life. You may not believe it, but you will be shocked. Your own children may wish you dead so that they can take over whatever you have accumulated, and yet you've worked so hard. So look at your circumstance and see what is best for yourself. And you know, if you retire from like employment from government or NGO, if you have your own investments, your financial investments, which can earn you money, well and good, because there are some people who don't want to work for others. You can employ yourself, and that way you are even at a better position to decide what to do with your life and to spend your money. So I don't know if I have answered you, but that is the opinion I have.
Canon, you have answered the question very well. However, someone is asking that what is the best age to discuss retirement plans or goals or objectives in with the children? What is the best age to start discussing plans for retirement, businesses?
If the children can understand, well, I discussed with my children when they were in secondary school, when they had reached that from after S4, because at that stage they are sound mind and they can understand a lot of things. And I remember when I even told my children that I'm going into tree planting, that was in 1990. 98, 99. They told me, Mama, who do you think we are going to follow you in the forest? We are not going to go there. We are going to pursue our own professions. And indeed, they did. They are ITs, engineers, and they are not there in the forest. So, but they have their own investments, and they told me, yeah, if you want to do that, you will be on your own. Don't count on us. They told me. So eventually, but when I went into the rental, yeah, they said that's a good area, and that is an area they have also encouraged me to invest in, and there they support me. So as early as possible, introduce it to your children and let them be a part of the decision making, because whatever you leave, they will be the ones to inherit. Has that answered you?
Yes, it has. Thank you so much, Canon, for such a clarity and wonderful explanation, and actually for even continuing to place emphasis on what you presented earlier by answering our questions that came through. Brethren, we thank the Lord who has used Canon Royce Gloria, and there is a discussion by Kaka Christine in the chat that is telling us for her, she started immediately her first child came, and this was planned for by her and her beloved of her youth. So I guess from these generals, we can learn a number of things. There's a question, how is the rental doing? Because some people say rentals don't bring money. I don't know if that is a personal question. I don't know if you can answer it, Canon.
I can respond.
Yes.
It depends on the location. It depends on the quality of the rental, and where you have put it. My rental is doing well because I built a well thought out. I had a well thought out design. It's a residential home. It can also be used as an office, and it's now in the center of Arua. So it's Ever since I put that house on rent from the year 2000, it has never fallen vacant. That is how good God has been to me. It has never fallen vacant. Either it's used as residence or it's used as office. And I've been blessed with very good tenants. Almost 99% of my tenants are Christians, committed Christians, and they pay me upfront 1 year in advance. So it has been well. I bought land, and that one is appreciating value. I bought land at 375,000 Uganda shillings, and now that land can be valued at over 120 million. But I'm still, well, we're now discussing with my children, can we put maybe rentals, because it's near Muni University and there's high demand for rental apartments there. So we're still thinking of the options. But if I also choose to sell off the land, the value has really appreciated. So it depends on where you are located and what other activities around there, economic activities are there to attract money. Martha, I hope I've answered you. Christine has put
Yes, she
an
said thank
interesting
you.
comment. Yes, Christine, thank you for sharing. You said that when your late husband, you started the planning for retirement as soon as the first child came, and you had to consider the children's education and what would happen to you after they moved out of the home when we aged. Yeah, as I said, when you grow old, the house becomes too big for you, so you have to look for a smaller place, and that's why I now prefer to stay in the Bugolobi flats. I bought that property, and because of my health, I have to go to Mulago Cancer Institute regularly for checkup. I have to do tests, So if I lived in Arua, traveling to Kampala would be would be very expensive and maybe also not good for my health. So when I stay in Uganda, I choose to stay in Bugolobi because I'm near the health facilities and easy access. So you have to plan early, look ahead what you will need. But if you want to be in a village, also make sure you go in a village where you are in a peaceful place. Don't go to a place where you retire and you live in chaos and be frustrated. I hope I've answered the questions in the chat room.
Yes, you have graciously, actually. We thank you so much for taking the time actually to spend and attend to the questions and the sentiments that have come up after you did your presentation. We really thank the Lord who has used you. Thank you again, Canon. I'd like to, at this
There's,
point, first of
there's
all,
an
hand over.
interesting message there in the chat room I want to respond to. That I thought you would get a bigger place for you because I have grandchildren. I can only bring grandchildren to my home to spend time with, but they should stay with their parents. I'm not going to take over the role of my children to raise their children. I can only be there with them. I can bring them to my home to spend time with me. At that age, you need your alone time. You need your time to be in your house alone, or, let the grandchildren stay with their parents. That you only bring them to spend a short time with you. You don't take the role of looking after your grandchildren. They will stress you and you will not even enjoy them. I'm speaking from experience because I have 14 grandchildren now. Thank you so much.
Praise the Lord. We bless the Lord for this. The grandchildren should stay with the parents, and the parents should stay in their own abodes. We bless the Lord for such a wisdom that has been given unto us. I have someone around me who is actually laughing and saying, wow, you have really nailed that final comment and made their day. So we bless the Lord for such a wonderful a wonderful explanation, Canon. I'd like to kindly request Reverend Benjamin to kindly respond in prayer if he is able to, and bless us, and then we can